Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. Today we are doing a author backlist video. I did this video probably 6 months ago, but I think it was more like fluff and I hadn't really thought it through. And so I wanted to do it up to date, and I thought it could be a really fun end of year video because we'll see how much this list changes every year, and then we will also see if there's any new authors added to it. So I have a spreadsheet to share with all of you. Let's pull it on up. This spreadsheet is my author backlist spreadsheet. This is the authors I want to binge, the authors I want to read everything from. I think it would be a cool little thing every year to see how this changes, as I said, because it has changed this year. This year there have been, I think, 3 authors added to it. Most of the time to get on this list, I have to have either really loved something from you or have read multiple things that I really enjoyed. But there are a couple authors on here that I actually don't think I've read from yet, but I'm counting. You can see quite easily on this, if something is underlined, it means I own the book in some kind of format. If it's got a scratch through it, it means I DNF'd it. And then on the left hand where the author column is, the column A, if it is yellow, it means I'm up to date and I've read everything the author has published currently. There is a complete, I don't know if we'll ever see complete because that would require an author to have passed away or something. And then if it's blank, I'm still working on it. And then we have other colors. These colors with years are for the actual book. It means I've read the book and the color corresponds to what year. So if it's this pink color 2019, orange 2020, this blue 2021, and the purple 2022. These colors correspond to the series spreadsheet and what they count for. I'm actually going to just bring on over my 2023 color, even though it's not 2023 yet. The first author is Brandon Sanderson. I want to read all of Brandon Sanderson's works, mostly. Technically it's not all, because I am leaving out some of the things I'm not as interested in, which maybe doesn't count as a full backlist, but it counts enough for me, because there's a lot of work and I just wanted to keep track of it. So I've read Elantris, I own Warbreaker, but I have not read it. I've read Mistborn Era 1, and I've read The Alloy of Law, and then I've read Skyward and Starsight, but I own Cytonic, haven't read it. And then I've read The Way of Kings, but I'm leaving out his middle grade series and things like that. Those things I'm not as interested in, and I don't often read novellas, so I don't count them as often. The next author is Mark Lawrence. I've read the entire book, The Ancestor Trilogy. I have started the Girl in the Ice trilogy. I've read The Girl in the Stars. I own The Girl in the Mountain, but have not continued. I have technically read the Broken Empire series. I DNF'd Emperor of Thorns. I need to read The Red Queen's War. I want to read Impossible Times, and then he has a new trilogy coming out that I want to read. Naomi Novik. I've read A Deadly Education, I've read Spinning Silver. That's all I've read from her, but she has a large list, and I do want to read some of them. I own His Majesty's Dragons. This should be underscored. Robert Jackson Bennett. He has 2 trilogies out that I want to continue. I've read the first book of both of these trilogies, but haven't finished any of them. Robin Hobb. I have read Farseer, I've read Live Ships, I've read Tawny Man, and I've started Rain Wilds. I have not obviously finished with The Fitz and the Fool, and then she also has the Soldier Sun trilogy that I want to read. I think there might be more Hobb out there that I just haven't really researched that heavily, but I have enough Hobb right now to get me through it. Hugh Howey. I really actually enjoy Hugh Howey. I've read the Silo trilogy, and then I've read the first book in the Sand Chronicles, and I own Beacon 23. John Gwynne. I've started the Faithful and the Fallen series. I own the Of Blood and Bone series, and I own the Bloodsworn saga. I feel like this is all pretty self-explanatory. It's just going through authors that I want to read more of. It's really just statistics for anyone who likes statistics. Blake Crouch. I've read Recursion, Upgrade, and Dark Matter, but I haven't read the Wayward Pine series, and then he does have a short story called Summer Frost I want to read. Christina Henry. There's the Chronicles of Alice, which are horror books based on Alice in Wonderland. Haven't read them. I've read Near the Bone, and I own The Ghost Tree now. And then I've read The Girl in Red. I want to read more Christina Henry. Riley Sager, I think, is the only person on this list I'm actually up to date for. I have read every thriller he's come out with so far. The only one left comes out next year. I'm excited to read it. Darcy Coates is a new one this year. Darcy Coates So was John Gwynne, actually, but Darcy Coates is really new in terms of end of the year since you've last seen this video, and I've read a decent amount. I've read Craven Manor, I've read Hunted, I've read Carrow Haunt, I've read The Fullcroft Ghosts, I've read Voices in the Snow, I've read From Below, I've read Gallows Hill, and then I own Quarter to Midnight, Small Heroes. I now own Parasite, and I own House of Shadows, Dead Lake, and The House Next Door. So I really just want to read all of Darcy Coates and have completed Darcy's backlist. A new author as well is Django Wexler. I've read the Silver Eye and Burning Blade trilogy. This needs to be merged. I adored it. Love it. I want to read the Shadow Campaigns series, and then I do want to read The Wells of Sorcery as well. I actually now own Ship of Smoke and Stone and City of Stone and Silence. And then he also has a middle grade series, and he has a sci-fi called Hard Reboot I want to read. Mira Grant is also new to this list. I read the Rolling in the Deep series thingy, Into the Drowning Deep and Rolling in the Deep this year. There's also the Newsflesh series and the Parasitology series that I would like to read from Mira Grant. Mira Grant actually has a lot of other stuff. There's a fantasy coming out this year too, but these are like her sci-fi horrors that I specifically put on this list and I want to read from. I think eventually I will dive into her other stuff as well. And technically Mira Grant is Seanan McGuire, but I don't want to read all of Seanan McGuire. But I do want to read all of Mira Grant, if that makes sense. Like, they're pen named differently for a reason. They're different types of stories, and I want to read the Mira Grant stories. Jen Williams is another one. I really enjoyed my time with the Winnowing Flame trilogy. I've read it all, so I do want to try the Coppercat trilogy as well. Adam Cesar is a horror author. I've read Video Night, Clan in a Cornfield 1 and Clan in a Cornfield 2, which is Friendo Lives. I would like to continue reading more of his stuff. Another horror author is Grady Hendrix. I own Horror Store. I've read My Best Friend's Exorcism. I've read Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying, and I DNF'd to the Final Girls Support Group. I need to read We Sold Our Souls, and How to Sell a Haunted House comes out January. Plan to read it in January. Anthony Ryan is an author I have read 0 from at this moment in time, but I want to read more of. I own The Waking Fire, and I own The Pariah. I also own The Martyr. And he just has so many. He's got the Seven Swords series, The Covenant of Steel, Raven's Blade, The Dragoness Memoria, and Raven Shadow. And I want to... They all sound really good to me. So I will at least try all of them. Michael J. Sullivan, another that I have not read from, but I want to. We have the Theft of Swords world, the Ryari Revelations world. I own Theft of Swords. I think that's the only one. Oh, and I own Age of Myth. But these all, like, connect in the same world. Ed McDonald is new this year. I read Daughter of Red Winter, and I really enjoyed it. Book 2 is called Traitor of Red Winter, and it comes out next year. The cover was just released, and I want to read the Blackwing series too. Sophie Lark, a romance author, made it onto this list. I loved The Sinner's Duet, and I've started Brutal Birthright. We have a whole backlist from her to read. And then the last one on this list is Thiago Abdallah, who literally only has the Ashes of Averon series currently, but I loved A Touch of Light so much that I cannot wait to continue with Thiago. I think next year, predictions to be on this list. Next year, I think you will see Alec Hudson on this list. I've read The Umbral Storm, and I haven't read this one yet, and I think if I like this start, I will be putting Alec Hudson on the list. I just didn't really want to yet, because this was his newest work, and sometimes I like to see the debut-ish to decide whether I want to do some backlist. Sometimes I just know, but with this author, I didn't fully know if I wanted to read. There's another series that is outside of my comfort zone a little bit, but if I do like this one, I will try it out. More predictions. Someone actually who should be on this list probably is Evan Winter. I might add him to it. I think it's just because I've only read the 2 books in the one series that I didn't really think of him. I did put Thiago on this list, so I feel like I probably can also put Evan Winter, just because they only have that one series out currently, so it's hard to be like, oh, a backlist author when I've read everything from them. This is the same reason I think Jen Lyons is not on this list yet, but she could be as soon as she comes out with something else if I like it. David Douglas is an author I do really want to try to see if I want him on this list. I own Soul Keeper, and I also own The Belated Faith by him. Hopefully I will try both of them and like them, and he'll be on this list. And Brian Stavley is another author that I think could end up on this list next year once I try some of his work. I tend to feel this way about like thriller and horror authors very often, and not as often about fantasy authors. I don't always want to read an entire fantasy author's backlist. I mean, even with Sanderson, I'm cheating. Same with Mira Grant. And not all of their books are on here because Brandon Sanderson does have the middle grade series that I'm not interested in. There is all of that. And Mira Grant has some fantasy. I just put her sci-fi horrors on, but I'm excited to see how this list changes and expands next year. I think it could be very interesting to see every single year. And let me know your thoughts. Are there any people on this list that you're excited for me to continue reading? Is there any predictions on authors you think I will eventually add to this list? Or are there authors I will take off this list? Because obviously the idea of this list is I want to read like everything they've come out with. So like if I really hate a couple of their stuff, they could be removed off this list. Like R.F. Kuang was removed off this list because I learned when I read Babel that I wanted to read very specific books from her. If she ever came out with another trilogy or series that was like the Poppy War, I want to read it, but I don't have plans on picking up her newest book release about the publication industry. So yeah, I don't know, thoughts, feelings, etc. Chat with me down below. If you're not feeling chatty, you want to just like say hi, leave me a music note emoji. I just read the title Blood Song. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves a remarkable day.